You don't punch with a jab, you slap him with a jab. Did you see? You didn't feel that. You felt it, but you didn't feel it.
Widely considered the most underrated heavyweight champion of all time, Larry Holmes, or the Eastern Assassin, was a refined technician. Had he not been forced to pick up from where the legendary Muhammad Ali left off, he may be considered one of the best champions of all time. Defending his championship belt 20 times over 8 years, Holmes has been one of the most ferocious defenders of his belt. Possessing one of the most legendary jabs, analyzing the skills of this all-time great can give us a peek into what is behind his most successful, accurate, and unstoppable punch. Being the heavyweight champion Ali's former sparring partner, the Eastern Assassin picked up the majority of his style through Ali during his developmental years. And while Ali was the reigning heavyweight champion from the early to mid 1970s, Holmes was slowly honing his craft. And like what a student should always do to a master, he ended up refining Ali's already groundbreaking tactic. In Holmes' words, "I did it better than Ali. Ali's jab was good, but he wasn't faster than me. He didn't hit harder than me. Nobody did the jab like me before me." And he'd be arguably right. Holmes and Ali had very different styles when it came to their jabs. Ali's jab was a pretty sight. He often combined the jab with cross steps to remain safe within the ring. He'd often pair them with lateral shuffles to dance around the ring, throwing them at all angles and times, whether he was stepping backwards or forwards. In that, his movement was a key factor, benefiting his lashing, whipping jab that he often threw from his hip. This jab is also very similar to what Thomas the Hitman Hearns would later make his famous flicker jab. Both Ali and Holmes would fire from their hip most times. When firing from the hip, the jab is usually more unpredictable, and can be fired at multiple angles. This versatile jab, therefore, can be turned into more of a left hook or even a hybrid uppercut. This is not to say that Holmes could never mix his jab with his footwork. For his fights, he often channeled his inner Ali, flowing like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. This is where I'd say their similarities end. Holmes would have that claimed more well-rounded jab. Where Ali threw it in tandem with his movement, Holmes would put all the emphasis into his jab. Thus, he would often remain more stationary, and he would control entire fights throwing the jab off his front foot. This generates more power than when Ali would throw it off his back foot. While his jab was mainly emphasized for speed, it was stiff and powerful and can be a rangefinder or it could be an annoyer. And just like he explains it, he uses the jab to slap his opponent rather than try to hit his opponent. When throwing a jab from a high guard, it is conventionally taught to keep your fists clenched throughout the punch to not risk breaking a bone in your hand. However, when you have had the hours in practice that Larry has had throughout his career, he would throw a jab loosely and turn his fist and clench it at the perfect time, negating the slower speed you get from a jab by stiffening your arm throughout the entire jab. Holmes would also use his left hand to smother and block his opponent's vision, similarly to what Ali would do. However, where Ali often used his long guard to hold a stable position and regain stamina, Holmes would use it on the offensive, setting up a battering right hand that tore through his opponent's guard. His punch was much straighter and conventional than Ali's diagonal cross chop, finding his target more efficiently in a straighter path. In terms of the dark side of the sweet science, Larry Holmes would often stick his thumb into the jab, poking and prodding at his opponent's eyes. Holmes threw his jab so much that very few noticed, and the angles he could play with by using his jab made this dirty trick nearly unrecognizable. Holmes had the blessing and the curse to fight in the somewhat dormant era of heavyweights, yet had to almost act as a filler between the giants that are Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. And he never gets enough praise, having amassed a record of 69 wins and 6 losses, fighting even into his 50s and giving good fights to the second wave of Golden Age heavyweights in the 90s. The world should know more about the Eastern Assassin, or Larry Holmes.